Okay, I'd like to say welcome to Gayle, Hudson and Eleri, Chilcott from our office in Wales. They're going to present some work that they've been doing recently on an evaluation of a project, and you'll find the whole report in your seminar packs. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, so as Wendy said, I'm Gayle Hudson, this is my colleague Eleri Chilcott, and between us we cover the widening access work at the OU in Wales. And we're just going to share with you in the next few slides some, bits and pieces of work that we've been doing with carers in Wales. We've had a 3-year project that's been funded by the Waterloo Foundation. Now, the Waterloo Foundation is the trust fund that's behind Admiral Insurance. And they've also given to the Development Office as well and funded some of the TESA developments at the OU, and as part of that project they also funded some of our work in Wales, so this 3-year carers project. So we've been working, that's finished December 2013, and we've evaluated the project and done some further sort of research really, and we'll share with you what we found. Just to give you a bit of background, over the last few years there's been an increasing pressure from government level down really to recognise the needs of carers, and I think we heard from the NUS presentation obviously the additional demands that carers face. In Wales we've got 90,000 carers in Wales, 1 in 8 people are carers, and it's estimated that 1 in 3 of us will be carers at some stage in our lives, so it's something that's going to affect most of us really. The various sort of policy background really, Carers Strategy Wales measure in 2010 places a duty on NUS and local authorities to publish a strategy for carers. Carers also now have a right to their own assessment through social services. The latest Equality Act in 2010 forced HEIs to consider the needs of all those with protected characteristics, and by association then obviously carers come under that. And as part, during the length of time that we've been running our project in Wales, carers have been one of the priority groups within the WP or widening access work that we do in Wales. And as far as we know, we're the only HEI in Wales to have carers as one of the explicit widening access priority groups. So that's something to be really proud of. I'll just pass you on to Eleri then to give a bit more information about the actual project itself.
Yeah, should we swap? There you are. Okay. In terms of the design of the Carers project then, we very much built on our widening access approaches by focusing on 5 key elements. Firstly, we developed a bilingual information leaflet and website landing page that was specifically directed at carers and detailed what the OU could offer. Then we developed communication links through carers networks to promote and disseminate information about the project. And for this we work closely with what is now known as the Carers Trust to identify the network of local carer support groups across Wales. And we also worked with some local authorities who have similar support services for carers in their area. As a result, in the 3 years since the project's been running, we now have a wide communication network with 120 groups currently on our database. Through the wider networks as well, we also undertook some focused partnership activity with local carers organisations to provide enhanced support. As part of this work, we developed information days, taster workshops and sign-up surgeries focused around our introductory level 1 provision, mainly the openings programme as it was, and some short level 1 courses, things like K101, make your experience count, that type of thing. And then when we got a number of carers signed up in a particular area, we also ran study support sessions at the local venues to help the carers navigate through their first distance learning module. As part of the project, we also had a bursary fund, And that was for anyone who wasn't eligible for the main OU Financial Assistance Fund. And quite a significant number of the carers that came through the project were just above the threshold for financial assistance. And many of them told us that they wouldn't have taken up the study opportunities without that additional support. Then finally, as part of the design of the project, really, we built in right from the beginning regular monitoring and review systems to find out as we went along what impact our work was having, but also so we could share best practice both internally and with our external partners. And as part of that, as part of those interim reviews, we gathered from the beginning of the project stats, student and partner feedback. We developed a number of case studies, we attended conferences. At the first stage of the project in 2013, we put it forward and won the UWL Award. And then at the end, we brought all that information, all those stats together to make up the final report that you have in front of you today. Hang on a minute. As mentioned, one of the key elements to the project was partnership work, which is a key strategic approach for us in Wales in terms of our general widening access work. And we're going to show you a short video about some of that focus outreach work that we did right at the beginning of the project, and it also includes a short case study of one of the learners that came through that work. It's from the work that we did with the Swansea Carers Centre, which is based in South Wales. So we just run that now, give you a bit more of an idea. The OU in Wales Access to Education for Carers project is funded through the Waterloo Foundation. This is a one-year project which aims to engage carers of all ages in learning opportunities by raising aspirations and opportunities for young carers to study at higher education level, and also by offering a second chance, if you like, to adult carers to help them increase skills, build confidence, and provide opportunities for them to fulfil their learning potential.
The support services that we offer are predominantly based around information and advice. So we have a welfare benefits advice programme where we give one-to-one free advice to carers. We have respite service, one-to-one counselling, and support groups and training as well. For some carers, the long-term goal will be about going back to work. For others, it will just be the opportunity to engage in something that is separate from their caring role. The OU project has complemented this work greatly because it has offered a very flexible approach for carers to access training.
We are very pleased with how our ongoing partnership working has resulted in a number of carers across the area signing up for OU courses. 5 carers have come via Swansea Carers Centre, 4 directly through contact with me, and the 5th from an advert that we put in our Carers Courier magazine. She contacted the OU directly.
I heard about the OU through Emma Daniels. She's our life skills coordinator based here at Swansea Carers Centre, and she recommended the course and encouraged me to apply. As long as you have a computer, then you can, sit at the computer and log on to your account in the OU at any time. You can send your work in at any time. So even if you're a little bit late with the work, you can send it like a couple of minutes before. So in that sense, it's great.
It's very empowering, I think, to undertake a course of study, get positive feedback, and realise that you have a lot more potential than you ever realised that you had. And for many carers, this would be the first opportunity they've had in a long time to do something that's very focused about themselves, rather than spending most of their time, as is usual, focused on their caring role.
We've engaged with carer support groups across Wales. We've developed and distributed a range of awareness-raising promotional materials in partnership with national carers organisations, and also coordinated a range of focused outreach activity in North and South Wales.
I really enjoyed the course. If this had been available to me when I was caring, because I couldn't go on to uni, I'd have jumped at it. It's been challenging, it isn't as easy as I thought it would be, getting back into studying, but I've really enjoyed the course, so I'd recommend it. It's been really good.
Okay, so that's an example of some of the focus work that we undertook as part of the project. And from the range of partnership work that we undertook across Wales, we came up with what we saw as a typical carers learning journey from their initial engagement with the carers organisations. So firstly, the first step for carers then was very much about engaging with their local carers support group. Next was accessing practical support and information from those carers organisations. Things like finding out about their eligibility for benefits, practical things in relation to their caring role as well, respite care, that type of thing. Then they may start to attend regular social activities at their local carer centre and get the opportunity to meet people in a similar situation to themselves. Many of the carers groups that we worked with ran these regular sessions. Some had cafes, others held weekly lunches or morning coffees, but all had encouraged the sense of that social space for the carers that they worked with as well, to build their confidence. And then the next stage, very much after this, would be, maybe after a while, carers may consider progressing with their learning. A lot of the carers organisations that we worked with arrange for local community learning providers to come into the centre and deliver some taster workshops, some short courses, things like reflexology, basic IT, languages, that type of thing. But they'd be delivered in the carers centres where the carers themselves were familiar, they felt more confident, that type of thing. And then at the final stage then, if you like, that's when learners would start to think about progressing, and it's at that point that the OU or other providers would be making contact with the carers organisations and coming to show them what they could offer for those carers to progress on to accredited learning, either on a campus or, as you said, part-time distance learning with the Open University. And it's at this stage really as well that partnership work comes into play, and it's an important part in helping carers to decide what's the best choice for them to progress and what will help them in their role as a carer. So at this point, we very much came in and worked with the local carers organisations. As I said, we put on information days, taster workshops around our openings and introductory level 1 courses. We provided information packs, sign-up surgeries in some places, and the opportunity to give information about the sign-up process as well. Most of the carers that we worked with through the project did come on to the openings programme with us, but some did do some other short level 1 courses as well.
That was an overview of the project. If we just sort of say then, so what we did after doing the project was then during the project as well, was obviously collecting data so we could properly evaluate how we were doing really. And Wendy, thank you very much for helping us with the literature review. But our evaluation of the project really took the part of a literature review, which Wendy from CICP helped us with, and also the fantastic slides as well, thank you. And we did a quantitative analysis, so we had 171 carers actually engaged through the project. They didn't all go on to study with us, but they were people that we engaged with through the project. And then we carried out written surveys with those participants as well, and then we gathered additional qualitative research around 13 detailed case studies. So from the people who fed back with questionnaires, we then asked them if they wanted to take part in a further discussion over the telephone. So we had some written detailed case studies as well, which some of which are in the back of the packs as well in the reports. So a little bit of project data. Of the 171 carers that we engaged with, 78% didn't have any previous higher education experience, 8% did, and 47% went on to register on OU courses. So just under half of the people we engaged with went on then to take up at least one course with the OU. This strikes a tone with the earlier NUS presentation as well. So 87% of our carers that we engaged with were women, which is probably quite typical as most carers tend to be women. 16% had a disability. Again, a higher percentage of carers tend to have a disability as well. 34% were eligible for financial assistance, and a further 62% received our carers bursary, which was this additional funding that we had as part of the project. And 39% went on then to register for a qualification. So of the nearly under half that we actually engaged with initially went on to study, and then obviously 39% of those then went on to further study and work towards a qualification. The age profile of the carers, although we did try and engage with young carers groups, it's fair to say we mostly engaged with older carers. So by far the most age group of our carers were over 40, between 41 and 65. Although we did have some who were under, well, 9% between 21 and 30. 16% between 31 and 40, and then the rest of them were between 41 and 65. So that gives you an idea of who we managed to engage with. So if I just move on now to the key findings, none of these are going to be, a surprise to anybody, but I suppose it's useful to just have, and many of them actually reiterate what we've already heard from the NUS presentation. So carers' lives are unpredictable, and that sort of unpredictability that was mentioned earlier and those sort of crisis points, I think, was quite telling in certainly the case studies, wasn't it? So there was a couple of people who had to give up after their first module, and then they left a whole year before they picked up their second module, because they've had a bereavement and different things, crises had happened. And there were a couple of people who had actually dropped out and dropped by the wayside because they'd had a crisis point and then didn't feel they could come back again afterwards. So those sorts of things are important. And it's important for us as student support staff, tutors, etc., to be tuned into this, the needs of carers and how that additional support can be available, and just to understand those sorts of needs and the fact that things happen and are unpredictable. We shouldn't make assumptions about carers. We've found out that they come from all walks of life, all educational backgrounds, etc. Any one of us can be a carer at any time. And it was quite surprising, actually, in a group that we had in North Wales, certainly a couple of the people who were involved in the group had got postgraduate qualifications, but they were coming in with openings because, having cared for 20 years and been out of education and out of employment, you wouldn't believe the lack of confidence that people had. So actually where they wanted to start as well, and not assuming, you've got a postgrad qualification, so therefore you need to start here. That was quite telling as well in terms of the feedback that came back to us. We all know this, learning builds confidence, and just from our case studies, it was overwhelming. Even people who did a little bit with us and then, used that as a stepping stone to something else, the amount of confidence that was built up was incredible. The value, as Eleri said before, as part of that carer journey, the values of short tasters, both the kind of openings type tasters that we were doing, the workshops that we were running, but also the pre-stuff that was going on in the carers' centres in terms of before they even came to the OU, and the value of that in terms of building people up and finding that sort of progression pathway was really important. This again reiterates what we've already heard from the NUS presentation. Communications via trusted organisations. The amount of people that said, well, I've heard of the OU before, but I never thought it was for me. But then I saw an advert in the Carers magazine, or I spoke to Simone at the Carers Centre, and she said that you're running. And just because we'd said OU and carers, it was like, oh, right, it's for me now then, that's okay. And certainly about the information about, what sort of financial support is there and everything, that's already there. But having it there addressed to carers made a huge difference, a really big difference to people. And that was, that again came out in the case studies. So yeah, people just didn't think it was for them. And then building on from that, obviously to do that and have those partner organisations is absolutely crucial. So to have that network of intermediary organisations, trusted intermediaries that you can then link out to is absolutely crucial. And the recognition that takes time, the relationship building with those organisations takes time. And it takes resources, and it takes maintenance as well. It's not, it's an ongoing process. So that was, I think, our key findings, really. Yeah. And I'll pass on to Eleri now for the recommendations.
So very much leading on from the findings really. These are the main recommendations from the report. Education providers need to provide flexible mode of study and course support for carers. They need to work in partnership with carers organisations to build on progression opportunities. Institutions should consider ways of progressing students from informal to formal learning and recognise the importance of introductory courses at HE level to build confidence. They need to provide information and marketing that is specifically targeted at carers and offer additional support and information as needed through their programme of study. Support for carers needs to be integrated across the whole curriculum, not just for the first access module, as with a lot of the widening access groups we work with. There needs to be, as there always is, more staff training around the need for carers, especially targeted at student support staff and tutors. Institutions should communicate clearly to carers about the cost of study and the financial support that is available. And they should clarify what additional support they can offer to students who are carers. Another important point we thought as well, we had a bursary fund within the project, and we felt, and it came out through the report as well, that learning providers should also consider applying for discrete funds for ongoing bursary support to encourage carers to take up learning opportunities and to support them through their study as well. And finally, interventions, including projects like this, should be evaluated on a regular basis to ensure the needs of carers are being addressed and the impact that we want to achieve is being made as well. So that's the end of the carers presentation on the carers project. It's the end of the project in Wales, but obviously our work with carers now carries on as part of our main widening access work. We've got copies of the report in the pack you've got, and there's also a link there to the online report if you want to forward it to any of your colleagues. And mine and Gayle's contact details. We'd be happy for you to contact us about the ongoing work that we're doing with the carers as well. Thanks very much for inviting us here today. I'm willing to take any questions, really.
Thank you, Eleri and Gayle. Any questions?
I've just got a couple of sustainability questions to ask you, so related to the ongoing work. Firstly, in terms of the partner organisations, now the project's at an end and the funding has run out, I just wondered what your thoughts were and how you're going to maintain those relationships that you've built up with those agencies and organisations.
Shall I? Yeah, I mean, what we've done is we've mainstreamed it into our normal widening access work. So in Wales, we do have very explicit ongoing work with partner organisations across Wales. So regular e-communications. We've got a team of tutors that work out in the community as well. So what we're doing is basically mainstreaming the carers' work into that normal work. So at the very basic, we've got 120 contacts that we email on a regular basis with updates. So some of that stuff can be done on a fairly low maintenance level, and then as requests might come in, or can you send some more brochures out to us, so that sort of stuff is picked up by our admin support in the office. So those sorts of things, because we've established that relationship now, that can almost be ongoing. But then sometimes there will be requests. We've got a group of carers that are, could somebody come out and do a session with them? And if there is a substantial group out there, we will send a local tutor out to do a workshop with carers, because that would be picked up through our normal mainstream widening access work, which we still have the luxury in Wales to be able to do that a little bit. So I think it is slightly different in Wales in terms of the outreach work that we can still do. But we're mindful all the time of also the stuff that we can do on scale. So we work really closely with the Carers Trust, which is a Wales-wide organisation, and then through them they've got their newsletters and networks that they send out, and all the different umbrella organisations under them, because they're the big umbrella organisations. Some of those things are done at scale, but we still maintain sort of local relationships as well. I think that's...
Yeah.
So the extra study sessions that you were providing as part of this project, are you saying that you've still got funding to support those, or are you saying that you have funding to support them when there's a large group that warrants
If there was a lot.
Yeah, when there's a large group, we can pick that up through our funding from our core widening access funding.
Okay. And just lastly, just added to that, have you established the impact of those study sessions? So have you determined the level of attendance and whether attending those extra study sessions actually made an impact on improving retention and completion and progression?
Probably not in any detailed way. We've got anecdotal evidence from the case studies that we've done from the carers, but I think that's about all we can say that we've realistically done on that score, Julie, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. That's
okay.
helpful.
The other just to add, the other thing that we're just trialling, and I've tried it with another network group that I think could hold real potential for us, is holding webinar sessions, and that's the kind of way of people engaging, and you're having a meeting, but it's not labour intensive for anybody then to come, and that's a more sustainable way. It still takes time and planning and everything, but that's something that I'm trying with another network that I'm working with, and I think there's potential for that sort of model to be used in other ways of keeping partners engaged.
No, it's actually really good. I'm sitting here thinking, how can we scale this up? So we've got a UK-wide model. So I'm thinking, is there a national organisation that covers carers?
The Carers Trust.
The Carers Trust, is that UK-wide?
It's UK-wide, but then there's there's Carers Trust Wales, Carers Trust Scotland, and Carers Trust England, I suppose.
Okay.
I don't know if they, but it's under a UK-wide banner, but then they operate separately, a bit like the OU does then in the different nations.
Okay. So we could potentially look at that in terms of scaling up and learning from this.
They could certainly be one of your social partners, I would have thought. Yeah.
Thank you.
So Julie, hold that thought. Obviously you won't be leaving. That might come in useful for the workshop session. Just Jonathan.
Yeah, sorry. So you can answer it.
Oh, we don't need those.
Okay, no.
Thanks. Sorry.
It's a reflection of how interesting the sessions are.
Yeah.
I'm just sort of conscious of Eleri, when you were talking about the point at which the OU sort of comes in. You sort of talked about like an engage stage and then a sort of progress stage.
Yeah.
And I'd just like to sort of flag up, and I know Lindsay's going to go on to talk about OERs.
Yes.
So I'm sure you'll talk about OERs, but also there's a badging project going on, which I'm the academic lead for.
Right.
And that's would enable you to get in before the openings level 1 level, which I know in these community contexts is often quite a big first step.
Yes, and we may have been in a step before then to speak to the organisation themselves to let them know what we could offer.
Yeah.
And then they may have a group of students that we could come in at that point in the progressing stage. But something that Lindsay knows that we're also developing down in Wales is around the OER. We're going to be developing a Pathways to Success guide in Wales for our community partners, which will help them navigate and offer that informal learning opportunity, and then for us to come in at a later stage as well.
But I mean, it's just putting in, if you like, another little step, not just have the OER.
Yes, particularly for carers, as you said.
But to have the badge content, which is like a sort of a next step on to sort of thinking about doing something that's assessed and not quite accredited, but it's just like a little step on. So there's sort of the steps being put in between, sort of, I don't know, watching Coast and registering for qualification.
Yes, it's useful to know. Great.
So if we take one more question from Tina, and then I'm conscious of time. So.
Thank you. This is just out of pure interest, actually. I wondered if there was any evidence to suggest in your research about the delivery of materials, whether carers preferred online access, offline access, books as opposed to websites, etc. I wonder if there was anything that you gained from your research there.
I think that for having been involved in this sort of case study follow-up and telephone interviews, which I suppose where we've got most of the rich information like that, it was a real mixed bag, to be honest. So I think some were really confident online, and some found the online was a barrier to them. So struggle. I didn't know, I couldn't, and this is where the carers' lives are stressful, almost like if they were in a stressed period, having the additional kind of hurdle of managing online things was almost too much for some people. But it was varied, and surprisingly, it wasn't just you might think, oh, some of the older ones might have struggled. Some of the older ones were fantastic, and it was some of the younger ones that might have struggled. So there was no real evidence either way, really. It was just a real varied bag.
But that extra support that we did build in to help them navigate around the OU system did, it appeared to help those groups that received that. And also subject area was useful as well. A lot of them were very interested in things around psychology, health and social care. I think areas that they had experience of, and being able to study that and find out more about those areas was very useful and very interesting to them as well.